The switch case statement in Java is used to jump to and execute a block of code depending on the value of an expression. You could do the same thing with a series of else-if statements, but the switch case statement is syntactically a bit simpler, and because it's part of the language, it will generate better code. Here's an example. This program accepts a number on the command line, then uses that number to jump to a specific set of code in a switch case statement. First, a check is made of the command line. If there's not exactly one argument on the line, the program explains how things should be done and then exits. The parseInt method is used to read the character string of the input value and convert it to an int. There could be some more testing here to make sure the input string is an integer, but this is just a demo program, so let's go on like we know what we're doing. Now this is the switch statement. In a switch statement, you can use any expression that results in either an int or a char data type. In this example, the int value of the input number is being used. Now, this is a variable, not a constant, and its value is used to select one of the case statements below it. The value of the variable must match one of the constant values on the case statements. Execution jumps to whichever one does match. Each case statement has a constant value, and that value is unique. That is, no two case statements can have the same value. But that's an easy one. If you accidentally enter a duplicate value, the compiler will point that out to you in very clear terms. Oh yes, the case statement values don't have to be in any particular order. You can put them in whatever order makes sense to you, and the compiler will straighten all that out for you. Now let's take a look at each one. If the number 0 is entered, the value on the switch statement will be 0, and the execution will jump to this statement. Every statement following case 0 will be executed. In this example, it prints the words even 0, and then executes the break statement. The break statement is very important in switch case. The break statement causes execution then to jump out of the switch block and go to the code below it. In other words, the switch value of 0 causes a jump to this block. Then you have to tell it to jump out of this block by using the keyword break. I'll have some more about this break stuff later. If the value is 1, then the execution jumps to the printline statement call that prints the words odd 1. But notice there's no break statement here, so this one just drops through to case 3 and also prints odd 1 or 3. Then the break statement jumps out of the switch block. If the value is 3, execution jumps to the statement and prints odd 1 or 3 and then breaks out. If the number is 2 or 4, execution will jump here and print even 2 or 4 and then break out. Now, if none of the other values are chosen, the switch statement will jump to the default. It isn't required, but it's customary to put the default selection at the bottom and end it with a break statement. I mean, the break is not necessary here because this will just drop through to the bottom anyway. But if another case statement were to be added later, it could be added at the end, and the default then would drop through to it. So it's always best to include that extra break statement. And you need to always include a default selection. I've found this to be especially important when it's not possible for the default to be selected. It's a neat bug catcher. Okay, let me show you how this works. This is what happens if you don't specify a number. The number 0 makes the selection of the first case statement and prints the fact that the number is even and that it's 0. The number 1 prints the fact that it's odd and 1. Also, since there is no break statement at the end of the code, it drops through to case 3, where it prints that the number is odd and is either 1 or 3. Now, you usually want to have such a break statement, but there are times when selections are combined this way on purpose. This selection just prints odd 1 or 3 and then breaks out. This selects the case block that prints the information that it's an even number and is either 2 or 4. The selection of 4 does exactly the same thing as selecting 2. Any other selection will give you the default and just print the value. Some things to remember. The expression on a switch statement must be a variable, and it must be an int or a char data type. The case statements all require constant values. They can be integer constants, as shown in this example, or they can be literal characters in quotes, or Unicode character constants, anything that resolves itself to a character or integer constant.